Yeah, let's open the index one from day 3. We can work on that one. And I also open it in the browser. Okay, we had this page before, right? Where we had our mission and then the testimonials. And on the bottom, we had our links where we put the target attribute last time on. Okay. And we used a loop for that. And let me just write that loop for you guys again. Here. So just the other one, we went in there and selected all the links from the index file. So we created a variable, called it external links. And then we went to the document and had the query selector all to find everything. And then we were looking for the anchor tag with an href attribute. And it should, the href attribute should start with the HTTP. Okay, so then we had everything here. Then we went for a loop for and as long as I was less than 0 and I was smaller than the external links length, we were cruising through our loop and putting the number every time we cruise through 1 higher. And then we had an if statement in our little loop here where we said if our external link does not have the attribute of target, so if it doesn't have the external links in whatever loop we are at the moment, has attribute of target, then we want to do something. And then we wanted the external links in the position we are at the moment, set an attribute of target and have the blank value in it, which opens a new browser tab. So that was where we stopped. Everyone remember? Good. Hope you didn't have nightmares over that one.
Okay. My dreams weren't pleasant, I can tell you that.
Hopefully not nightmares. Okay, so basically we're split it up a little. So here we're storing all the links we're having here, the Instaham and the stuff in here. And then we're going through the for loop, and so we're looping through every one of these links here and see if the link has an attribute of target. Then we don't have to do anything, we're done. And if it does not, like we have here, if it does not, with the exclamation mark, then we're setting the attribute of target and doing the blank in here. So for now, when we are running our loop, we have no way of stopping our loop. You know, if we write a bad loop, we would go forever. Like we had the one time where I had to restart my browser. So there is a very special word in JavaScript to break out of a loop. Actually two. One is to break completely out of the loop, and one is to just break out of that one loop and continue then later. So let's create another example for that here. So let's create a constant, and we call it minimum, so min, and we set that one to 0, and another constant for max, and we put it on 36. Okay, then we need two more variables. One is the test number we're looking for. Let's give that a 15. And one is our I, because we're using not a for loop, we're using a while loop this time. So our I equals to 1. Okay. Then let's write our while loop. While max is true, and because we have nothing else in our condition, it will always be true because we have max. Then we're doing something. We are creating a variable, so a let this time, a smaller one, let random value, and let the computer create a random number, and then we're doing some mathematics with it, and then we're testing if we're hitting our test number. So math floor. Okay. It's one of the given methods we're getting from JavaScript. And then math random. So we're getting a random number, which we're then multiplying with max minus min, and then 2 times, and then just adding min to it. Just some crazy mathematics. So, and then we're checking if we hit our test number. So if the random value is equal to our test number, then we're doing something. Then we break our loop. And then let's output it as well. Console log round I, so we know how many rounds we went through that one. Plus the random value. So the round number, whatever we are in, gave us that value that we're having. And then in the end, we want to add 1 to our counter.
Professor.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you scroll down, scroll up a bit?
Like
no, to the blank. Yeah. No, up.
More?
Up. No, with the external links and the target. Yeah, that
okay.
one. For me, blank is in white, and it doesn't accept my semicolon as ending.
Okay, do you have them in quotes here?
Yeah, I do.
Everywhere?
Yeah.
And the comma here and the brackets around?
Yeah.
And no space here?
Oh, now it's fixed. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
No problem. It's usually a quote or a comma or a space somewhere.
Yeah, I should start looking for them.
Okay, and then here we could do another console log. So the script went, I times rounds before finding test number. Okay, then let's test our script. Wrong side. So if we put that here. So the script went 1 round before finding 15. But we're getting 44 times that. So something's not working right. So, because this in here should not always point it out. But, so in here, our thing breaks immediately. So our loop runs infinite times in here till the random value and the test number is equal. So our 15. And then it breaks our infinity loop and stops. So completely, it just breaks here. It will not put the console log statement or the adding 1 to our counter. It really stops exactly where it sees the break statement. So be aware that you're going to lose whatever is below your break. So if you want to have the full loop done, you put the break in the end. But if you want to break immediately, you put it up higher. But then the code afterwards will not be executed anymore. So that's with our break statement. And I have another example here. Yeah, another example for the continue statement. And I'm just deleting all here because it's getting long. I have an example where you're trying to find all the prime numbers between 1 and whatever number you plug in there. So, and then I show you how the continue works. So first we create a constant, and we call that one ceiling, and we put that to 100 this time. And then let's create a function, the prime test, and in there we need our test value. My kids are trying to destroy the house again. Okay, so then let's create our test for our prime number. So a let, we call it is prime, and we set it to true. So with that, we're thinking that every number we're getting is a prime number, and then we're checking if that statement is true or not, and setting it to wrong if it's not. So for let I equals to 2. So we start at 2 because everything is divisible by 1. And then as long as I smaller than the test value, we'll continue going through our loop. And then we are having our calculation. So if test value modulus, so if I divide it through the loop value and it has something left over, then it can be a prime number, right? So if it's divided by I and it's equal to 0, then we have to set is prime to false. And then we return the prime value.
Quick question.
Yes.
What is the character after test value on line 8?
A percentage sign.
Percentage sign? Okay,
Yes.
good.
Remember, that's the modulus. So that's it here, and then we have our so, and then we are having another test run through it. So for let I is 2 and I is less than the ceiling number. Oops. Then we continue going. And then we check for the result. Oh, we create the variable result. And put the round we're going through in it. So prime test I. Okay. Then let's put it out so we know what's going on. Console log I plus is a prime number. And then we have our result. Then let's check our great work. So, of course, we have to call our function, right? Prime test. So 55 is a prime number. Let's go. So it works. It's not beautiful, but it works. Hopefully for you guys. Okay. So that was the test. So, but as now it should run through that function all the time. But if we want to stop that from running, we could insert here another statement. So if the result equals to false, I could say continue. Oh. Continue. Okay. That would make that loop go through, and if the result is equal to false, it stops right here, but then, and it will not output our console log, but it then jumps back to our loop and continues the loop till that one's done. So with break, I stopped here and went completely out of whatever loop I'm doing. And with continue, I stop that run through the loop, but then make another run through the loop till our measurement is fulfilled. So if we're hitting something that we're looking for. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So that was what I didn't want to do with you last time in the end. So going through that. We are coming now to our third day, jQuery. Oh, JavaScript. jQuery is basically JavaScript someone else wrote for you. So it's not a framework or something, it's just a library. So someone else wrote a function that says find, okay? And we can now use that function find, and we may have to put attributes in it, so parameters that say what it should look for. But basically, I just have to apply whatever it is. So remember I told you jQuery is kind of in its dying age. When should you use jQuery? Basically, when you're already using jQuery. So like, for example, with Bootstrap, not with the new 5, with 3 and 4 before, you already have to have jQuery anyway to make Bootstrap run. So if you already have it, why not use it? And jQuery was created to, how to say the best, have support for whatever you're doing over all browsers. So you don't have to write different JavaScript for different browsers, and makes it so easier and quicker for you to write and have it do what you want to do. And also sometimes have support for older browsers. So where you would have to write crazy amounts of JavaScript, very restricted. And so it's just taking a lot of the pain away from you writing necessary JavaScript for every browser. It also tries to make you write less JavaScript in good and bad ways. You can find everything you need from jQuery on jQuery.com. Pretty much that's all that is about to say about jQuery. So there's documentation as well for what does what. And the essential concept of jQuery is that if you want to call something from jQuery, you have to use the $sign first. And so JavaScript knows every line that starts with the $sign uses jQuery. Or if you really want to type a lot, you could also say jQuery instead of the $sign. Everyone uses the $sign. Then in the olden days, they always wrapped everything you write in JavaScript with jQuery in a document ready function. So that looked like this $sign, then document ready, and then function. Okay. And all your JavaScript or jQuery code goes into that function. So that was a way to tell the browser that you wait with executing whatever is in here till the document is fully loaded and ready. So that was the old way. And then the new way to do that, let's write that down here, is $function. So, and then you just put everything in here. Oops, of course, I forgot something. Like this. So you just don't have to write the document ready anymore if you want to use that. Or like with HTML2, you use the attribute of defer. Remember, we had this asynchronous and defer in order to tell the browser when and how to handle the loading of external files. So then remember in JavaScript, we had to do document query selector or selector all. And then we had to specify what we're looking for. If it's a tag, we just use the A, or if we use for a class, we had to use the dot, or for an ID, we had to use the hashtag. jQuery kind of worked like that before. So JavaScript adapted that. So if you're doing that with jQuery, it would have been the $, and then the brackets and quotes. And then if you were looking for an ID, you used the hashtag navbar, for example, site like this. Or if it was a class, you would have said button block or whatever. It's pretty much what JavaScript took from jQuery, and that was really the best thing from jQuery, was how to select elements. Or if you're looking for an attribute in square bracket, for example, something with the role of navigation, then I'm looking for that. Okay, and then if I'm then want to do something with it, I just was concatenating it with the dot. So for example, I go for the length of whatever that element is. So you just put dot something on top. That is basically what jQuery is really famous for. Of course, you can also change something with that method. Let's go for something here. For example, if we go for the footer element, then I could say in the footer, find all the anchor tags. Okay. Or if I'm lazy, I just copy that down. Or all the list items. Okay. And if we don't have list items in there, we get an empty array. Then I could also go, oops. And then look for children. Okay, so it's not my children, but it looks for child elements. So if I'm having a list item, or let's say have an unordered list with children, I look for all the list elements within an unordered list, for example. Or I could look for specific children. So for example, all the heading 2s on a page that are within the footer class, or sorry, ID, within the element with the footer ID. And when I can look for children, I can also look for parents. Finds the parent element, or looks for a specific parent element. Or I can look for one or multiple. So here, for example, the ordered lists. And I could also look for siblings. So with the same level in our HTML. Everyone good? Okay. So you could actually write a little shorter code with jQuery than with JavaScript, because you could chain all these things somehow together. So as an example, yeah, let's do the example. So function. So our ready function. And then in there, we call our function $grid. And then we put there everything with the ID of navbar site. So dollar navbar site. Music. Okay. And then let's create another one. List. And that one is from our grid. And we want to find all list items in there. Okay. And then we can play some with our list items. So list, let's change some CSS. The background. And let's give it a background color. And then animate it a little bit. Really not good in writing today. Fade it out. And when we're fading out, we're fading in as well. And this time we want to do it slow. That does not seem to make it pretty shorter, right? So it's still a lot of typing. So by the way, this animates, so makes the width, the element, 100 pixel smaller over the period of 2 seconds. It's our animation. So, but instead of that, we could write it now like this. So $list, then we do the CSS, background, 690. And then we put this one here. And then we're putting this one there. And then we're putting this one there. Instead of all this. Seems shorter, right? And like with JavaScript, this time here, we can put them in new lines to make it more readable. And you could even try it. I hope it's working. So this is how it was. And I put it there again. And then we see what happens. We're messing up our navigation. Is it working for everyone? Okay, so that's how you destroy user experience. But you can see that you can put all of this basically in, you're going for whatever you're trying to go for once, and then just put everything on that string of thought that should happen with that element. Makes it easier, right? So, okay, I have another example here, the classy HTML one. Let's bring that one down. Here. Okay. So, in order to make that all happen, we need JavaScript activated. And I have here a classy CSS file, classy JavaScript file in which we can go. And here I prepared the function for us. And now we can play some in here. And I think this time I need a preview. Okay, save it. Okay. Try to put that here and that a little more to the side. So we're seeing a little more. Because as you guys know, Dreamweaver is not a really friendly JavaScript developing platform. So on the page, I have a div with the ID of page. And in there, I have an unordered list with an ID of circles. And then we have 4 list items. One has a class of first, one has a class of selected. And then I have the paragraph with the text down here that has an ID of JavaScript warning. So with that, we're going to work a little bit. So in our function, we can go and get all the circles. So for that in jQuery, we create a variable called circles. And to be nice, we create it proper. Okay. And then we go for all the circles in here. So typo in there. Okay. So, and then we can do something with our circles. Circles. And then let's say find. And we want to find the second child. So we use the CSS for that. Nth child. And then the second. Okay. And when we have that one, we add a class. And we add the class of selected. Okay, let's save it. And then when we refresh, we see nothing. Okay. Oh, there it is. Our second one is now selected as well. I hope for everyone. Okay. So then we can do more. We can also find the nth child number 4, so the last one. Number 4, and there we could remove the class of selected. Move. Okay. Why not? Why not with number 4? You should have removed it. Okay. I don't know why this one's not working at the moment. But nevertheless, let's go on. Let's find the third one. And child number 3. And there we could toggle the class. Okay. Okay, that's a new one for me that you have to do if you're going for another element in there, call your variable and you, again. So that working for you guys now? Okay, good. So, okay, now we're getting crazy. Okay, so we could now, sorry, 1 second. So we could now go up here and add a class to the body that says when JavaScript is working, we don't need the text here that says, unsurprisingly, we need JavaScript to work. So, because it is already. So we could do this by adding the class of JavaScript that I provided for you guys here in my style sheet. What is that here? Here I have a class of JavaScript that just gives it a display none. So, and this will be done if we're going for the body tag. Yeah. And then adding the class of JavaScript. Okay, when we save that and we reload our page, of course, it's not working immediately. Because I made it this here, this mess. Okay. Because I was hitting the return up here in the preview. So now when we reloaded the page, when JavaScript is working, JavaScript will hide the warning text. And everyone believes me that this is what's happening, right? Okay, it's good. So. Okay, that was our little example with the classy. And then here with our first example. So we don't need our classy file anymore. And then with our other one, we could now do some fun things here with our form, for example. We could clone a whole row and insert something after the effect that the page was already loaded. So let's do that. And I'm just deleting all of that stuff that we had out here. For you guys, you can comment it out. Remember how JavaScript comments work? Yes, no, yes.
Can you show me again?
If you have multiple lines, it's like CSS comments. Okay. That, or if you just have one line, you just have 2 forward slashes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's good. Thank you.
Comments are important. Okay, then let's go for the address here, the address part. and then we are cloning it, and then we're adding something before and after, okay? So we create a var for our address. And with jQuery, we're going and looking where we have the ID of address. And storing the position for us there. And then let's go here for the address. Okay, and then append something in here. And the easiest way for us is to get to the source code where the address is. And just get the whole thing copied. And we just put it in here. Single quote, single quote, single quote. Okay. And then let's check it. Okay. Oh, we didn't say when we want to have something done, right? Address append. That should all work. Yeah, there. Not supposed to have spaces in between. And then we have a clone of our address input element. And then if we have that one, we should be able to. We did append, we could also prepend. And let's copy just the whole thing again. So, and with that, we have 3 times the address. Just to make it a little clearer, we make the first one 1, the second one 2. So append is here, prepend is there. So this is the address element we selected, and then we duplicate, or we put something before and after with our append and prepend method. So that's how you can easily insert something before or after an element you're selecting. So, and because we're there, we can do more stuff to mess up our form. We could find the class of form group last, form group, not the button, form group. And then we could select the last one with the last, and then remove the whole thing. And now we remove the appended one. Or instead of remove, I could then also, for example, if I want to duplicate it, I could say clone. Then I'm cloning it. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. Then I would have a little challenge for you guys. So here. Oh, of course, always safe. Okay, so without HTML and HTML changes, okay, I want you guys to give one of the name fields, or that name field, an error. So for that, you can use the class, CSS class from Bootstrap. This class is called isInvalid. Okay, so that gives an arrow frame around the input field or name or whatever you want to do with it, and the name for the name field. And for the email field, I would love to make that one successful. So that one is you can use the class of valid, okay, for that one. The CSS class. And then maybe also add a little text that says like something like good pick, and make that one also a successful feedback message. And that one is done with a class of valid feedback. Okay. And that one is also applied to the form group the email is in. So did you guys understand what I tried to make you do? Yes, okay. So without changing the HTML, you're using jQuery to go and add this class to the name part here, and this class to the email part here, and then add something with text after the email, so down here under the input field, with a class of valid feedback that says awesome pick or whatever. 10 minutes or 20 minutes?
I
Let's do
might
10.
need some time. Okay.
Oh,
Okay, 15. Okay,
that's good.
okay. So I leave these 3 classes here. Did you guys do it?
JavaScript's a little hard when you're not showing us exactly what to do.
I didn't expect that you guys are making it work all the way. Just start thinking about how you would do it.
Okay. That makes me feel a little bit more at ease.
So who made it work? Not at all? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. I do it now with you guys, okay? So here in the HTML, we have the form with the ID of form contact, okay? So that's something I can get my fingers on with JavaScript. Then both elements are in the form row. Another thing I could get my fingers on. And then there's the first one of the input fields, and then it's the second one of the input fields, okay? So now to our example here. Okay, so first I would create a variable and call it form and put the location of the form inside, right? So, and I said we have an ID of form contact. Okay, so now JavaScript knows where it is. So now I go and get my form. And in there, I want to find something. Okay. First, I want to find the class of form row, and not all of them, just the first one. So form row, and then just the first one. Okay. And then when I'm there, I want to, in there, find the form group, the element with the class of form group. Form group. Okay. And then from the class of form group, which there the both input fields are in there, right? We want to have the first child, nth child, the first one. And in there, we're looking for the input field. Okay. And to that, we want to add a class. And the class is invalid. Okay. So let's check that one. So that one gets the red border and the X here. Then for the second one, basically do the same thing. That's why I'm copying down. But this time I want to have the second one for the email. And then I want to also add a class. But this time we want to add the class isValid. Okay. Check where we are. We have the green border and the check mark. And then we wanted to add the little text there too, right? So we already have the right element. So we just look for the parent of that element we're in at the moment. Okay. And then when we have the parent, we append something. Okay. And we want to append a div with a class of valid feedback and with some text, and then we close our div. And then we check our work. If it ever loads again. And then we have here our text. So, is it working now for everyone?
Yep.
It looks great now. Yeah.
Okay, so try to find out what we did. Well, it's basically pretty nice English there. Go to the form, find the input element, and add a class. And then go find the second input element, add the class. And then it gets a little trickier because we have to look for our parent element, so one level up. And then in there, we just append the text. So this is how you should think about stuff like this when you're trying to go in and find elements and manipulate them. Not everything has to be always pinpoint with an ID, because you have to come up with a lot of names if you have to give every single thing an ID. With plain JavaScript, it's a little harder to do that, but with jQuery, it's pretty easy, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't seem so elaborate as it could be.
Yeah. Okay, so with JavaScript, when we wanted to have interaction, we had to use events and event listeners, remember? jQuery comes with these as well. So I'm just getting rid of our little example here. So we have out-of-the-box event handlers with jQuery. So let's go, what are we going for here? The input of name. Okay, so let's just start using one. So let's go and find the ID of input name. Okay, so now we would have the input name, probably this here. If I look, ID of input name. Okay, and then out of the box, we have an event handler, and this one is on. And then we have to tell JavaScript on what we should do something. So let's say click. And then as a second attribute, we have to give in a function something to do. Let's call this name click. Okay. Then, of course, we have to write our function. And in there, let's just put something in the console. Console log. You click the name field. Okay. So let's test this. And for that, we need to see the console. And if I click the name field, I get my little text here. Working.
Yeah, I got it.
Good. So on something, we can do something. That's the most basic event handler we have.
Wonderful.
So we can make it a little more specific. We can, instead of on something, we can say, do that one out. So on click, name click. We go for the name click function. So that's the click function. So the click event handler, which should do the same thing. Ooh. And I even saw that I can't write. So that's when I only want to listen to click. And remember with the basic event handler with JavaScript, we couldn't do two things at the same time. With jQuery, we can. Like, for example, let's add here $. And then I can say on this, whatever happens in that function, whenever that function is called. So this, let's change some CSS. Background color. And let's put it to something ugly, EE9. Okay. Let's save it and test it again. And if I go there, we have both things firing. And we can also take the default event out of something And for that one, let's write it in here. Let's go for the ID of form contact. And then on submit. We want to do the function. Remember, we just do one thing. We can write an anonymous function. Prevent default. So if I'm here, I'm still getting this. And if I'm hitting submit, it does not do what it does usually when you click the submit button. So I can then do something else. Fun?
It's beautiful.
It's pretty much the same like with the event handler in JavaScript. It's just a little less wordy.
Yeah, if it's more concise, it makes life a lot easier.
So, and then of course you can read and set values with jQuery as well. Delete all our work. Yeah, let's change something here where navbar site HTML. So let's read something. So let's go. And we're looking for something with an ID of navbar site. Okay. And in there, we're looking for the HTML. So, and just to show you that quicker without the saving and previewing stuff, I just go here in the console for you guys. To make that so you guys see a little more. I just paste it here. And then I get the whole HTML at once with some white space in the beginning and some in the end. Okay. So if we go here, navbar site, where is navbar site? Done, navbar, ID of navbar site. So everything in here. Container, brand, button. Container, brand, button. See, I got all of that at once. So if I just want to have the text inside, for example, of something, I could write $DID navbar site. And then let's be a little more specific, the navbar brand class. Navbar brand. Okay. And if I don't want to have the HTML as well and just the text, I just say text, the text method, and go with that. And then I'm just getting our text here from the navbar brand. Working.
I got some spaces somewhere, I think.
Are you doing the HTML or the text method here?
I'm doing the text.
Then you shouldn't get white space.
Then I don't know. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna look at it again.
Do you have a space between navbar site and .navbar brand?
Yeah. I don't. It's okay. I'll figure it out.
Okay.
It's probably something minimal.
So like before we had the HTML, we got all the white space, right? We also have something where you can take that away. So just the navbar site and HTML method, and then we could hang another method on, and this one is trim, and that takes the white space, for example, away. Does that get working for you guys?
Okay, yeah, I got it.
Okay. So when you can read, you also can write. So this time we're going for our heading 2 here, our mission. So we are going jQuery and we're looking for the ID of mission. And then one space, and there we are looking for the heading 2. Okay. And then we want to get the text. So, but we don't want to read the text because we can read it from here. It's our mission, right? We want to set a new one. So I go between the two brackets, and then I need quotes, so start and stop quotes. And then I just write the text here that I want to insert up there. So your mission. And then if I hit return, I change the heading. So this is how I would change something on the website. I just go for the element and put a new one in. The same I could do if I'm going, instead of the text, I could go with HTML. Okay. And instead of reading, I'm writing this time. And because we have the HTML, I can write HTML in there. So for example, we make this a heading 6. And tiny header. And we're closing our heading 6. And then we have a tiny header. And if we look at our HTML, where's here? We have the heading 2, and inside the heading 2, we have a heading 6. Working?
Yep.
Good. So we're getting to the end spurt here. So then we also can read values out of it. So for example, the input name here I have, that one, still working when we're clicking something. So let's write something in here. And then I could go and try to get the value out of there, right? So this one is with the ID of input name. And then we want to have the value out of there. So well function, and I get test string out of there. Pretty cool, huh? Maybe
Love
help.
when things work. It's great.
Is it working?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's maybe
Good feeling.
helpful for your project, I'm just saying. Then we also can read attributes and properties. And not only read, we can also write them. So I think it's then going somewhere here, the role of navigation. I actually don't know where this one ends up. Okay, so let's look for something that has an attribute of role that equals navigation. So basically it should be a navigation element. And then I can see if it has a specific attribute. So attribute. And then we're looking for href. And if we have something that has in the href www.catbook.com. Oh, attribute is written with attr. Okay. Which one is it? Somewhere we have one. Okay. Now I'm curious, where is it? Oh, there it is. The whole diff. Okay. That was funny. Okay, so we read that there is something with that specific attribute of href and catbook.com. I could read out what's in a specific href as well. So $. What are we looking this time? Something with a role of navigation. That has an attribute of href. And now we're getting it out. So we can retrieve the data attribute values like this. So checkboxes work a little different, because if you're checking if a checkbox is checked, it's not an attribute, it's a property. And to check if a checkbox is checked, like this one here, for example, then we're using not attribute, we're using prop for property. So this one, we're going for the class of form check. and input. And then we're looking for property. So form check input. Okay, I don't know why it's not working this time. So this is how you would read for a property. And then if you wanna, this you should get back true or false if it's checked or not. That one property, form check, or should give you, yeah, if it's checked or not. And then you can check for something specific. And then for this in here, you would write to look for which property you're checking. So this time we're using checked. And then we want to see if it's, want to make it true. So it is. And now let's make it false. And with that, we see that we're having unchecked or checked for the checkbox. And if we want to be cruel to our page visitors, we can make it checked true. And then also add here. If we want to do two things at once, we have to put curly brackets inside here. So checked true. So curly brackets inside, and then inside there we have to write it a little different. So we have to go for the quotes, checked, because it's a string, and then because it's a property value pair now, we need colon, and then the value true, and then I can hit the comma and set a second pair. So this one is disabled, and that one also to true. Okay. And if I do that, I make it checked, and so no one can uncheck it. So if you want to be cruel.
I like that little act of sadism on the website.
Yeah, no one can escape the newsletter.
That's the worst.
So that's how easy it would be made. So, and then for, as a last thing I have prepared for today, for radio button, do we have a radio button here? No. Okay, for radio button, it works slightly different. So, because radio buttons have the same attribute name, so I cannot go for that one too, but they should have different IDs. Or I can give them different IDs. So I could go for that's a fictive radio button. So radio button, if I call it, let's say, with the class of radio button. Okay. And then I'd go here and put the attribute of checked in here. Checked. Okay. And then I could read the value. And that one would give me back a true or false if that radio button is checked or not.